Hello, welcome, all of you. Welcome back to Sister Tea Time Podcast. So, I have an exciting message for today for my audience. I am solo. I don't have any guests today, but you all are my guests. So, the question today I have is the N word, pregnant pause. This is a word that nobody wants to hear. This is a word that also sets boundaries. I know in your mind you probably are thinking of the other N word, but today's episode is the power of no. Pregnant pause. The power of no. Boundaries build strong businesses and relationships too. So I take notes. So I want to piggyback off of my notes. So I just won't be rambling on and on. But many of us struggle. How many of us struggle sometimes with saying no? I'm going to be honest, honest, open, and transparent. There have been times where I struggle with saying no, but no is not bad, y'all. No basically sets healthy boundaries to protect your peace, your purpose, and your business and your relationships. I mean, let's face it. If you are a yes man or a yes woman, that's like unrealistic, right? Everything is not going to be yes. Once again, as business owners, it's important to communicate our expectations clearly, whether you own an Airbnb, a salon, a daycare, a restaurant, or any other business. Your policies exist for a reason. I'm going to repeat that. Your policies exist for a reason. They help create consistency, fairness, and a positive experience for everyone. At the same time, we should always extend compassion and make accommodations for those of us that have physical disabilities or any other legitimate needs. Kindness and boundaries can exist together. Another topic I want to ask you guys about: is it safe to make assumptions? I want to discuss this too, because a lot of times we make assumptions about things instead of just simply asking. Too often, people assume instead of simply asking. Assumptions can lead to misunderstandings, frustration, and unnecessary conflict. Communication is one of the greatest gifts we can give to one another. Now, here again, this is a faith-based podcast, so I have to reiterate and also connect the dots with what God says about boundaries. The Bible reminds us that boundaries are wise. Even Jesus didn't say yes to everything that everybody requested. He remained focused on his Father's business. Here are a few Bible verses that'll back that up. So Matthew 5, verse 37 in the NIV says simply this: all you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. So I'm a pregnant pause right there. I know a lot of us have really felt like saying no, but you're compelled to say yes because it's your family or, a tight relationship, a friend. But then when you simply say that yes, when you really want to say no, then you start grumbling and complaining about, oh man, why did I do that? I should have told him no. I should have told the family no about this. Now you're frustrated. No is not a bad thing, y'all. Once again, if Jesus could say no, that's just like for real. He's our Father, right? He's our Heavenly Father. And everything that we ask for, even certain relationships, we feel like, man, like this guy or this woman is so nice, but your Father knows best. He sees things that we don't see in the human lens, in the human eye. And a lot of times when he says no, most of us, ouch, I've been guilty, still a work in progress. We like, man, like, really? Or I'm going to say it like this, and I've dealt with this so many times as I have lost loved ones, from cancer or other diseases. And I see other family members or people that are living with it for a while. And then I look up and I'm like, man, Lord, like, why? You know what I'm saying? I see this person over here and, why you didn't do that for me? And it's tough sometimes to hear no. I'm going to be honest, hot, honest, open, and transparent. I'm a real person. And sometimes we don't want to hear no. But on a godly level, God knows what we need and what we don't need. What we feel we need is like, yes, I need that. Or, I'm trying to get some more money, so I'm going to go take this second gig or whatever. The moral of the story is no is not a bad word. Okay? So moving right along in the scriptures, I also have Proverbs 4:23, which says this, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Here again, pregnant pause. Let's think about that. So the words that we speak, it flows from the heart. Here again, if you know in your heart, you should say no. Say that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It actually saves you and the other person some heartache and conflict. Okay? These verses remind us that there is wisdom in being clear, guarding what God has entrusted to, and recognizing that every request requires a yes. Now, I love to hear from my audience. If you will, put your comments in the chat. Here's a question. How do you handle boundaries in your business? Do you find it difficult to say no? Or has it become easier over time? Have you ever had someone expect you to change your business policies to accommodate them? No names mentioned. I know a lot of people in business that do that. And I'm going to be honest, it burns my cookies. For example, if the sign says no smoking, it's no smoking. There's no accommodating. There's no extra payment to make me change my mind of what my rules are. Rules are there. Boundaries are there for a reason. It has nothing to do with, I hear all kind of stuff. Oh, you acting like that because you being funny or because you're a different race. No, it's business. I stand on business. Period. It has nothing to do with any of that. But these are the assumptions that us as adults that are, I'm going to just be honest, immature. See, when you're mature and you're business minded, real quick, this is a true story. My husband and I and our son, we went up to Tahoe. And back then, that's when the weather was it was avalanches, all kind of stuff going on. And, respectfully, these people, we get an Airbnb. I said that right? Airbnb. And the hosts were like, you know what? Either you come or you don't. Your money's getting forfeited. Now, I'm going to be honest. Can I be honest? Hot, open, and transparent? I did. I played the race card. I was being biased. I'm like, damn. Damn is not a cuss word. Damn. Okay. For those of you like, oh, she's cussing. Anyway, I'm a real person. This is a real podcast. I'm like, wow, they don't care about our livelihood. My husband was like, okay, well, could we change the date? It was a no. We tried to do all these different things. And it's like now that we're in business, it's like I understand. See, at first I was thinking immaturely. But when you're in a business relationship, either we were coming or not, or the money was going to be forfeited. Well, my God, the money can't be forfeited because my husband paid a lot of money for this top of the line Airbnb in Tahoe. Thanks be to God, we made it. We didn't have to deal with any snowstorms. But I'm just saying to say that, audience, that when you are about business, you have to keep your feelings out of it. Here again, unless, like I said, you're making some accommodations for individuals that are legitimately have a physical disability. But business is business. And it's like when people say no, it's like it's an issue, especially with your family. Hello, somebody. I think a lot of times we all been guilty of that. We feel like, you know, we should be, don't get me wrong when I say this, and I'm not trying to sound condescending, but this is why a lot of times people don't go into business with friends or family, because a lot of times people feel like they're obligated. You know, you're my brother, you're my sister, you know, the list goes on. Here's another question. Do you believe people should ask questions instead of making assumptions? I hope I'm not repeating myself, but I did just say that. Like, well, I'm just assuming, it's okay. For example, we also have, businesses where they may accommodate certain things. For example, you may have a pet policy. You may have a smoking policy where it's okay, but be mindful that you too have a responsibility to make sure you're smoking in the allotted area. Make sure that you're adhering and taking care of your pet. No judgment. Because here again, I know we have a lot of pet lovers, and that's fine. But you must not make assumptions just because it's okay that you allow for your pet or smoking to go on in the house, especially like with an Airbnb. You have to be mindful of that. No judgment. Hope nobody takes this personal. I'm just speaking on a business aspect, okay? Let's have a respectful conversation in the comments. Your experience may encourage another entrepreneur who is learning that protecting their business isn't selfish. It's just good stewardship. It's just good stewardship. So, on that note, I just want to say thank you to my audience for being a part of Sister Tea Time. It has been a pleasure, and I cannot wait to hear your comments. Here again, I'm a real person, so whatever your comments are, I will not take them personal, just as well as I hope and pray that you don't. But here again, I'm a real person, and I'm not going to make any assumptions. I think that these are really good questions because these are things that we're all faced with. The power of no. Sometimes it's hard for some of us to just say no. And it's not that I love you any more, any less. I'm protecting my business. I'm protecting me also as a person and not getting my feelings and emotions all caught up in it. If you feel that your inner man, Holy Spirit, or some people say they conscious or God conscious is saying no, respect that. Okay? And until we meet again, I send love, peace, prosperity, and remember, happiness is a choice. It is not in a person, and it is okay to say no. I'm out. Peace.